Hello and welcome. We are back into Age of Mythology Retold with another low ELO ladder cast. We're looking at our hero today, who is going to be in the red corner playing Poseidon, none other than Hum, who's used their lure on the hippopotamus here. And yeah, they'll be playing against this color. What is this? Kind of like a light green. I'm not sure what the name would be. I'm not good with color names, but in the green corner we're going to call it, which should be blue, is Loki. Philippe Frank 16 is their name, and we're playing on the map Nile Shallows. We can see that we have a good north contingent of Hunt and Gold. There's 3 nodes in a screen's width right here. In the south we see something similar. It's worth noting that while I can count 3 in one screen with, obviously one of these is going to be more or less a natural expansion for one of the players. This is pretty close, pretty easy to expand to, pretty easy to defend. And yes, it's kind of a soft frozen lake. Is that the name of the map? I'm probably getting the name wrong. But, a lot of the action is around the outside of the map here. And a big open center. Seems to be pretty good map design, as far as I'm concerned. Well, what are we seeing? Nothing crazy from our players so far. 2 on the wood. Pretty normal, I would say. There's a kind of a debate as to whether or not we should go for wood early, too soon. Perhaps 1 could be good enough. And also, they built a ox cart when they could have perhaps used this ox cart and this tree, to get started. Of course, you've only got so much wood in a tree, but it's enough to last a little while longer. Building the house early so that you can go scouting with your berserk without issue is also, I think, pretty good strat. Yeah, we're just having a look around the map, and we can see that there are some relics. Kopech of Horus, this is going to be the bonus damage to myth units. In the back corner here we have Reeler's Crown, which is going to make it easier to build town centers and give you a favor trickle rate when you have it, which is of course great for Norse, who don't traditionally have a way to trickle favor. And villagers are 15% cheaper, which is not much. 15 food cheaper. Something like 7 gold for dwarfs. Just some quick math off the dome. But yes, it's a pretty quiet game so far, nothing too crazy. The spy is of course on a villager, which is good. We'll see how long that spy gets value. And we're going to just fast forward things a little bit here through the early game. Lower ELO games tend to take a while to kick off in any rate. You can see it's a pretty slow advance time here. We haven't even seen the Poseidon player click the age up button yet. It's only just hit. And likely in reaction to seeing his opponent hit age 2. I've been there. I used to be that player. And look at this double lumber camp action. Making sure to saturate the woodline here for the centaur spam that's coming. And for the Loki player, I went up with Heimdall. So we've got Undermine. What are the easiest strategies to be strong with? Oh, I didn't see this. Wall regeneration. Interesting. That is so obnoxious for China. Apparently we're getting a patch soon. I'm really looking forward to that. Anyway, I digress. What are the easiest strategies if you're a Norse player or you like the look of Norse, you're looking to get bombed? You want to pick up a Norse god, you're not sure who to play. I think a very simple strategy is to play Loki and to just spam Hersa. And that may seem counterintuitive. You may think, well, Hersa, of course, heroes, they're not going to be great against human soldiers. Spamming them isn't a great idea. Sure, that's true. But if you're at a low level and you're looking to just get the hang of a solid build order, you can do worse. Of course, there are many bonuses to Herso for Loki. You get the free myth units over time, which is just going to add up in value quite a lot. A forward base here from Loki, which I use, but it's been scouted now, so there's an awareness. But really all this is going to do is just prevent the Greek player from expanding here. And why is it that these 900 ELO players love to take 2 town centers simultaneously? I mean, it's kind of smart in a way. You see that there's a little bit of a forward base. You understand that your opponent is going... Well, actually, no, it's not smart in a way. I guess what you're saying is if you know that his army is here and therefore will soon be here, then you can theoretically assume that he won't be able to stop you from expanding, certainly not expanding in 2 locations at the same time. But it's just really a gross mismanagement of economy is what allows this to happen. This wasn't planned, it was just sort of thought in an instant reset. I've got all this cash sitting around, what am I going to do? And this is evidenced by the 800 food in storage currently. Now, because he spent all his wood and gold on town centers, yeah, he's got all this food sitting here doing nothing. And yes, the food will be used to build villages over time, but if the Loki player was actually using his cavalry, he's got 8 raiding cavalry here. Have they got upgrades? No upgrades. You know, think of the death and destruction that could be caused right now. Sadly, naught can be done. There's no vision of any of these locations. What a shame that a spy wasn't used. The spy, where is it sitting currently? It's just sitting over here, very quietly building houses. Yeah, I mean, if you're going to build raiding cav, it is super important that you actually use them to raid. It's in the name. I mean, of course, that's true with all cavalry. Like, we look at the hippies here, and we... You know, even the centaur, like, this could be over here harassing the gold mine, for example. Alas, no such luck. Instead, we see a very slow edging across the map from both players. Alright, let's have a little bit more of a pass forward here. Upgrades coming in, more economy being built. You can see just how one-sided it is towards Loki currently. And is he thinking of actually getting these raiders going? No, he moves them forward just a wee bit. If we look at what our opponent can see. Okay, so he sees this town center, so he knows that he's behind a town center. He's got no vision elsewhere of the map, and that's a real shame. Vision is so important, and it's not just to see what your opponent's up to. It's also to know what's around for you to, you know, expand to, what kind of resources you can get. And these raiding cav, I think they're scouting now into the top corner, but they're not going to see the town center just yet. All the way up. What are they hitting into the corner? Nope, nothing there. Let's actually have a quick little look at the moment of truth. Does he see it? No, just happens to path perfectly to avoid it. But he sees this gold mine. That would be free villager kills there, my friend. No, he runs off. Oh, okay. But some auto attacks coming out, which are going to get some value. 1 villager kill, 2 villager kill, 3 villager kill. Of course, he's 30 villages ahead. Gosh, come on. We got farms coming in now, even though there's so much food on the map. You know, so much hunt, and it's pretty safe theoretically. Oh, he did see this lumber camp. Okay. Still no action on the raiding cav. Oh, and now there's movement. Where to next? Looks like he's gonna not have seen this. Tell me he goes back for the mining camp. There's justice in this world. It's like, there's no attack move, it's just the fact that these units are on a, what's the word, aggressive stance. But of course, it's not going to matter. These are too far away from anywhere to retreat. And that's a lot of dead villagers. Still, the villager lead is escalating greatly. And here come the hippies out of the shadows. Let's go back to the full map mode here. So they're going to try to run out, but I believe, let's see here, 5.9 versus 6. So the raiding cavalry are just ever I can speak, ever so slightly faster. Just ever so slightly. And meanwhile, there are so many villagers on wood here. Look at this wood and gold that's being stockpiled by the Zeus player. You know, imagine how many toxotes that could be. Or even, selling the wood, buying some food, going to the next age. There's a little bit of a military here as the hippies chase down the raiding town, but of course, there's the I'm carrying the giant killing. But the upgrade, they're going to take part relatively. What a big battle. I wonder if the Loki player will at this point feel like they have a military advantage. My assumption is no, that both of these players are going to instead sit back and just slowly accumulate mass. This tends to be what happens. But imagine the value that you could have right now from just being a little bit more aggressive as the Loki player. You essentially have map control, even though that the Greek player is across the map in a big way. The Loki player had the military mass and the mobility to exploit the fact that there are villages everywhere for his opponent. Now, the Poseidon player is building mostly archers, seemingly stepping away from as many hippias as they had before. And I guess a part of that is because of this massive surplus of wood and gold. We're not even seeing much in the way of praying or recruiting of centaur. And I do think myth units really are defining in this game. And it just pains me to see these heresy carrying relics that will never be delivered, even if they're not great relics. This one's really good though. Yeah, what's it called? Ray's Crown. So good. Ray's Crown. I mean, besides, just letting villagers do their thing, the other thing that not raiding does is it lets your opponent gather up resources, right? Like, the longer Loki waits to attack, the more of the map the Greek player is going to suck up into their bank. So there's lots of reasons why being aggressive is good. Of course, you can't be too aggressive and throw the game totally away. Interesting that both players age up at roughly the same time. 15 minutes into the game. Very strange. What was I saying? Long story short, you can definitely throw the game by being too aggressive, but that's at a higher level. At a lower level, the value you get from making your opponent have to think about more than one thing at a time is massive. When you start to get at a level where players are better at doing that sort of thing, obviously there's going to be less ability for you to get value just from throwing your units at the opponent's base without thought. But look at this, we're going to press play here, as the very underwhelming Loki force is, being outwhelmed, if you will, by just the fact that the Greek player has had all the time in the world to sit on 3 bases and just build up in max villages. Look at that, double the villages. We're talking over 50 villages difference currently, thanks to the Loki player's items. And at this point, it would take a miracle for the Greek player to win. He's feeling comfortable with his army, he's feeling comfortable with his upgrades. He had his whole army gathered while the North player had his army split in order to get this third town center. You can see that on the minimap. And then he sends them sort of staggered, gives them 4 orders, and now the Greek player is going to be just attack moving in the direction of the town center here, which has been fortified. But what does it matter if it's fortified if everything else is dead? And there's some Dodi coming out. Where did the hill Dodi come out? Can you get Dodi from Great Halls? You can. Okay. For some reason, I was thinking they came out of the hill Halls. Alright, so we're going to fast forward here, but as you can see, like, sitting back, this Loki player had opportunities to win the game, I think. very early. He had cavalry at the right time, and the Greek player was greedy. He was just very vulnerable, very vulnerable to raiding. You know, if you're going to take 2 town centers as soon as you hit age 2, you know, cavalry are going to mess you up. But the cavalry wasn't sent in. The Greek player just very patiently got to 100 villages and then won the game. You know, there's no way that the Loki player had the resources to hold this push. Even though we look at the bank, huge amounts of floating resources. All this money could be units. You know, imagine. Anyway, not much of an exciting game being played on the ladder here today, but I think it serves as a good lesson. If you're playing, well, for one, he had no scouting information. You know, like we look at look at the Greek players scouting. By the way, basically all he saw was his own lands, right? Did he? And what did he see of like the Loki player? This at the very end when he attacked, doesn't know anything about the Loki player's base. Doesn't know a single thing. Has no clue. And likewise for Philip Frank, he had vision the whole time, thanks to the spy here, and he could see the town center here. And all of this up here was totally unscouted, and it just could have been, you know, it's difficult, I understand, to scout well in the early game when you're trying to do so many things, like you're trying to get a spy over here, you're trying to manage the fact that you have these ox carts to build, you've got the dwarf first gatherer problem, but you know, these are things that are important, but not as important as getting vision on potential expansions. I think it's just very key to reinforce that the the game is won or lost on early town center control. That's the long story short. All right, guys. Well, it's not a very exciting game in terms of the end game numbers and looks. We basically saw it. It was a game lost by idleness. So that's all you have from me today. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll be seeing some more casts up on the channel very soon, which I'm very excited to share with you guys. Until then, that's all from me, and we'll see you in the next one.